Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a book to TV review. So I recently read Dead Until Dark by Charlaine Harris, and I also recently watched season 1 of True Blood, which is the TV adaptation of this book. And I thought it'd be fun to make a video kind of comparing, contrasting, and reviewing both the book and the show. Before we get into it, I'm going to update my reading journal, so I'm going to go do that now. So while I'm updating my reading journal and making a specific page for this book and for these medias, I'm going to give a quick little review about the book and the show are very different. They would have very different summaries, but I'm just going to give a quick overview of the story. So Sookie Stackhouse is a waitress and she can read minds, and that's not one of those spoiler things. Oh, disclaimer, this is gonna have a lot of spoilers in it. But Sookie Stackhouse being able to read minds is not a spoiler because that is literally said on like page 1 or something, and she calls it a disability. In this world, vampires have recently, they say come out of the coffin, which is their way of saying they have announced their presence to society. So vampires are open, and in the society everybody knows about the vampires, and everybody's been waiting for the vampires to come to this small town in Louisiana, Bontemps. So one day a vampire walks into the bar that Sookie works at, and she instantly knows that it's a vampire, and this is where our story starts. It's kind of hard to give a synopsis of this because I like to tell every single detail and it's very hard to water it down to just like, here's a 2-minute synopsis. So basically this book is a love story about Sookie and the vampire Bill coming together and overcoming the difficulties that society throws at them because they are both different, and everybody thinks that Bill is very dangerous because he's a vampire. And then they also have to come through their own difficulties in their relationship because, you know, Bill's a vampire, so he is nocturnal, and Sookie is not nocturnal. She's awake during the day. And then the whole thing about, you know, blood. Like, you can't feed on a human every single day because they'll lose blood, and that's another difficulty that they have to come across. I don't think they come across that in the show, but they do in the book. This book is also a mystery because somebody is going around killing women. Specifically, they're killing women who have been with vampires before. So as more and more women are getting killed, different people are becoming suspicious. So at one point, Sookie's brother Jason is a suspect. Most of the time, Bill is a suspect. And it's not until like the last 10-15 pages that we know, well, 10-15 pages of the book, it's the last like 2 episodes of the show that we know who the killer is. Okay, so now getting into the adaptation of the book to the TV show. There are a lot of differences. A lot of things were the same. All of the events that happened in the book, save like maybe 2, also happened in the TV show. The ones that didn't make it to the TV show were very minor things that the story wouldn't be affected if those weren't there. Now that cannot be like vice versa. So every event that happened in the TV show did not happen in the book. Oh, like a way that they did this is in the book, it's strictly first person point of view. So everything that Sookie knows, we know. Everything is through her eyes, through her perspective. Her knowledge is our knowledge. The TV show is different. The TV show is third person omniscient. I don't think you can not do omniscient in a TV show. I'm not sure on that, but anyways, so the TV show is third person, and there are like 3 different storylines, like 3 different characters that we follow. Mostly 3 different storylines that we follow. So in the book, obviously we only follow Sookie. We see her romance with Bill, we see her introduction to the vampire, world knowledge. And we see her interactions with her friends. In the TV show, we see the same thing. We see everything that happens with Sookie, but then we also see a lot of Jason's perspective. So Jason is Sookie's brother, and he is a suspect in the murders. So in the book, it almost comes out of nowhere that he's a suspect. But in the TV show, it's made very clear why he is a suspect. So in the book, Jason is not talked about very much. He's a very distant side character. In the TV show, he is like front and center, like one of the main characters. We see his relationships with the women that were murdered. He had a relationship with every single one of the women who are murdered, and that's why he's a suspect, except for his grandma. Sookie and Jason's grandmother ends up getting killed because the murderer was waiting for Sookie and she wasn't home when she was supposed to be, and so he killed the grandma instead. And everybody's like believing that Jason probably killed those other girls, but didn't believe that he killed his own grandmother. So that kind of adds to the difficulty in the show on the mystery aspect of it. And then the other storyline we follow is Tara. So Tara is not a character in the book at all. Doesn't exist in the book. There's no Tara in the book. In the TV show, Tara is Sookie's best friend that they've known since they were like little kids. Her mother is an alcoholic and she struggles with that a lot. So her mother is convinced that there's a demon in her and that's why she is an alcoholic. And they end up going to this like trailer in the woods where there's this woman who claims that she can get the demon out, and they just have to pay her. And this is like a whole storyline that's not in the book at all, but I think it's pretty interesting because you don't know through most of it if it's real or if it's not real, because the whole show is paranormal. So why wouldn't there be demons too? Tara moves on from this storyline, and then she gets another storyline where she's in a relationship with Sam, and then she gets another storyline where she's with this woman that Sam knows from his past. This woman, I don't remember what her name is, but she seems kind of important of a character to just be thrown in there. So I'm guessing that she's from later books in the series, and they just moved the timelines around to keep people interested to watch more seasons. Another kind of important difference is characterization. Andy Bellefleur and Terry Bellefleur are cousins, and Terry was in the war and he's got PTSD, and Andy Bellefleur is a detective. In the show, they almost act as comic reliefs. They're kind of, well, Andy specifically is kind of dumb, and he's kind of like, he wants to be seen as a powerful detective, and everybody, because it's a small town, everybody's just like, oh, that's just little Andy, and they don't really give him the respect that he craves. And Terry is he's also kind of dumb, and he's clumsy, and everything is like, oh, silly me, and we kind of just like laugh at his, oh, haha, it's just Terry being Terry. But like, that's not how they are in the books at all. So Andy is a lot more serious, and he does his job a lot more, where in the show he kind of just rides the coattails of the captain. And Terry's a lot more serious, and he's actually struggling with PTSD, and we can actually see that, where we don't see that in the show. And I don't like the way that they're characterized in the show, because it kind of belittles them. I don't know, I felt like it was a little disrespectful to the characters themselves. Sookie and Bill were also changed just because, so Sookie specifically, a lot of what happens in the book happens in Sookie's head. A lot of it is her thoughts. And you can't do a show through narration because that's boring, and I get that. But because we don't see the struggle, we don't see how strategic she is, she comes across as ditzy and naive and stubborn and not very likable. Where in the book, she is very likable. Like, she's kind of like the opposite, because we can see what she's thinking, we can see how strategic she is, we can see how smart and stubborn and at times naive, but we see her struggle, and she seems real, she seems relatable. Bill's pretty similar book to TV show, but he seems a little bit more wishy-washy in the show, and I don't love the actor for Bill. I kind of feel like he didn't do enough. I don't know. I don't really have too much to say on that. I just don't really like the way that Bill portrayed the character. Well, the actor portrayed Bill's character. Okay, so let me talk about some of the things that happened in the TV show that didn't happen in the book. So I already talked about timelines that were different and how Tara was a whole new character. So let me talk about one more thing that happens in both the book and the TV show, but that were very different and caused different circumstances to happen. The whole situation in Shreveport Bar with Long Shadow. So Sookie gets asked by Eric to go there to see who's been stealing money from him. And she finds out that it's been Long Shadow this whole time, which is a vampire bartender. He attacks her, and this is where things differ. So he attacks Sookie, and in the book, Eric kills him. Just boom, dead, over, and done with. But this happens, and Sookie gets covered in his blood, and then Eric shows a lot more interest in Sookie, and he sees her as a lot more attractive. It's some kind of like a vampire thing where blood makes people more attractive or something. I'm not exactly sure, but Eric has a lot more interest in her than he did before. So in the TV show, Bill kills Long Shadow, saving Sookie's life, and gets in a lot of trouble for this, and he has to go to the Vampire Council, which doesn't exist in the book. Well, it kind of does, but it's not talked on as much as it is in the TV show. So in the show, he talks to the council, and he is told he has to create another vampire for the vampire he killed. That just creates another character in another situation that wasn't in the book. But I like how they did that because I think that part was very interesting, and I really liked to see how the vampires kind of handled their own situations without just killing everybody. Alright, so there's one more point that I want to talk on, and that is Renee. So this is the very last disclaimer that there are spoilers here. Renee was the murderer. He was. And this kind of happened in a different situation too. So I like the way that they did it in the book better because it was harder to tell that it was him. So I'm going to start with the TV show first. So in the TV show, they kind of talk about how Renee, he just like moved here and then he integrated into everybody's lives. He started dating Arlene and they became a thing. He started working with Jason and they became friends, and he just integrated into society. And then they find out later that he used to live in a different city, and his sister liked to hang out with vampires, and she was a vampire supporter, if you catch my drift. And Renee was definitely against that, so he killed her. And then he moved to Bonton and he started killing a bunch of other women that were also vampire supporters. And eventually he gets to Sookie, and I can't remember exactly how it happened in the TV show, but I think somebody came to Sookie's rescue. I don't remember if it was Bill or maybe it was Sam, but somebody helped her out when he was trying to kill her, and Renee ended up dead. So now onto the book. Renee grew up in this town. He knew everybody. He went to high school with Jason and all of his friends. He was like a year or two above Sookie. Arlene is known for having multiple husbands, and I think she's had like 4 or something, and Renee was her second husband. And he's like very integrated into this community, and his sister moved away to be a vampire supporter, and he like went out and visited her occasionally. And Renee was just one of those guys that was so like trustworthy, and it came more like out of nowhere than it did in the TV show. Like in the TV show, it was kind of like getting there, like we were getting to Renee being the killer, but we don't know Renee is a killer until he's trying to kill Sookie. The way that they did it in the book was a lot more intense. Obviously, being inside Sookie's head, and like the way that it's written is very, very good, and so it is very intense scene with her running away and being scared, where in the TV show you're kind of just watching it happen. You're not like immersed. But that's kind of a personal opinion. I like reading intense scenes more than I like watching them. So nobody comes to Sookie's rescue in the book. She does this all by herself. She ends up stabbing him with his own knife. She calls the police herself. She rescues herself. She doesn't need anybody to come save her because she's a strong woman. And she wakes up in the hospital to find out that they got Renee and he's still alive for now, but he's in intensive care. And the way the book ends is like Sookie's still in the hospital and we don't know what happened to Renee yet. The way it ends is definitely like, okay, there's gonna be more books, but it's not like a cliffhanger, but you kind of want to know what's happening in the rest of the show and the rest of the season. So I have watched both the TV show and I've read the book before, but these were like 7 years ago, maybe even more at this point. So I don't remember much of it, but I do remember like the vibe and everything, and I think it was really fun to watch the TV show and then read the book right after. I don't have the other books because they were not at the bookstore when I went. So when I went to the bookstore, they had like books 1 and then books like 4 through 13, whatever. So I guess other people are also interested in starting this starting this series at the same time as me, but whatever, it is what it is. So I don't think I'm going to make videos for this series, but if you like this video and you're interested in me doing more book to TV shows or book to movies, whatever, like I can make this a mini series. Maybe, I don't know. Leave a comment below which book to shows or book to movie you want me to do a review on, and I will. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you feel like subscribing, that would be great. We can all be friends. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.